half a centimeter away from having my arm amputated at 15. So that was part of that mentality. It's like, wow, you nearly lost your arm. And you've got a pin in your arm and a scar that's showing on your arm right now, which is there. Still got a pin in my arm, and I was able to achieve this. You can achieve anything. If you're not all in on whatever it is. I was all in on bodybuilding doing that chapter. Chips all in. But if you're not all in and you're leaving things off the table and you're playing this precautiously, then you're not going to achieve what you want to achieve.
We gotta get our shoes up there.
Oh, I was like, what are we talking about here? He just segued from posing trunks to like getting something up on the table. I was like, oh, when is this podcast kicking?
We gotta show off the shoes. I kind of think that we should have had part of the show with the shoes in the show.
I was thinking about it, but I didn't want to be disrespectful.
Oh, it's not disrespectful.
My birds were on creatine and glutamine and everything. They were on tonics and yeah, they were all jacked up.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about chasing dreams and making sacrifices. So many of my guests, I'd say 90% of the guests on my show, and obviously talking about Mike Tyson, Mark Cuban, these guys slept on the floor.
Yeah.
They were in a one-bedroom apartment. They, with 5 other people, had electricity turned off. Didn't have a car. The car broke down that they bought for $300 bucks. So tell us about your first trip to the U.S. when you were 20. Mm-hmm. Your visit to Gold's in Venice Beach, still there. My wife just started to train there. And
oh, really?
Yeah, you know, she says, you know,
it's great.
You got to come. And I'm like, I'm too insecure to go. I mean, look at my, I'm like this thin guy. I can't go there. But you came to the U.S.
Yeah.
And when you finally moved here, you slept on a couch for 1.5 years.
Yeah. Do you want me to tell you about the 2 parts of the story?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So when I won the British Nationals, which came after, you know, transcending the story of myself and Neil working together, I get this email from the United States saying that he was the owner of Gold's Gym. He would love to fly me out to America to do a photo shoot and just expose me to America and the Gold's Gym, you know, that I was reading about in the magazine.
That's the place, by the way,
yes,
in the world.
The Mecca.
Arnold started there. Everybody trains there.
The who is who.
Yeah.
Who is who. And I got these emails that came in probably in accession of probably like back to back within a week or 2. I looked at it first, I was like, this guy isn't real. There's no way. First of all, how did you get my email address? Because everything was new back then, right?
Right.
And then he messaged me again. He was like, I know this is kind of a little bit weird that you get out of this blue message, but I assure you that, you know, I'm real. If you need any references, let me know. Yada, yada, yada. I still looked at this. And of course, I showed my parents, my mum especially. She was like, oh my God, you're going to go to America, you'll get locked up in a closet and you'll never be seen again. You'll be brought out for some fun times, some weirdo, and you'll never be seen again. Of course, again, I understand. I understand now as a parent. Back then, I was like, Mom, you're overthinking. Now as a dad, I understand, you know, having this strange email. Back in them days too, there's no social media to check up on anybody. So a couple of months went by. I get another email, probably another 2. And I ended up getting a name to connect with, and I knew who this person was. Connected with this person, and he said, this guy is great, he's helped a lot of people out, and you should take this opportunity. I heard the word opportunity. So I reached back out. Probably within a month of going back and forth and sharing details, I was on a plane to the US for the first time. And I landed in LAX. Again, massive culture shock. Massive culture shock. Everything was bigger. Everything was bigger. Roads, cars, people, food. And I felt at home. It was weird. I just knew, as much as it scared me, that I needed to be in the United States. And again, it was the infancy stage of the business too, you know, the moving company. But I was like, wow, this is great. I hadn't even stepped foot in Gold's Gym at this point in time. So when Ed Connors, one of the original owners of Gold's Gym, bought it off Joe Gold and his partners, he brought me to his house, which is a beautiful house on Santa Monica, the boardwalk.
Yeah.
In Santa Monica, Venice, on the boardwalk.
Right on the beach.
And I got there at night. So of course, I get there, it's dark, the house is dark. I knew there was other house guests there.
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning, I'm the earliest up. and I'm getting to see the house for the first time in light. And just the experience of seeing people rollerblade past, walking, jogging, keeping fit, all shapes and sizes, all ethnicities. Just seeing that, again, different world from where I'm coming from. Not many people walking on the road to be fit back then. It was good weather, early in the morning nonetheless, but I was like, wow, this is a great place to be. And of course, then the house guests started waking up and I got to meet some people. There was a bodybuilders and WWE guys. In fact, side story, but nonetheless one that's a big part. The guy who was in my room prior to me coming in just left to do a TV series called Tough Enough. And that guy now is now known as John Cena. So John was in the room prior to me by a few days. He left to do this TV series, and I jumped in his basically grave when he left. And this house had the who's magic dust. I'll take that.
Yeah.
But there was the who's who of people who had been in that house, all the way from actors, wrestlers, bodybuilders. But Ed's goal, as he made a lot of money from Gold's Gym, he franchised it, he was behind that and took it all around the world. He seen the opportunity to bring athletes, myself included and many other people, to goals, give them the experience, host them in a house and not pay a dime. And for me, that was an incredible thing. I had no money. I got exposed to the dream. I walked into Gold's Gym and I seen, first day I was there, Jean-Claude Van Damme, there was Hulk Hogan, and then there was all the bodybuilders from that era, and I'm like, it's a magazine. And everybody was obtainable, everybody was respectable, respectful, everybody was cool for a photo. Although I didn't ask, I'd seen it firsthand, but it was just a magical experience that I went back home and I knew that I had to save my money to come back. So that's what I done. I worked, I saved, I came over. I worked, I saved, I came over. Whilst simultaneously growing my business in the UK, coming over here, whilst trying to make my name in the US. And then it came down to the tipping point of where I had to make that choice then to come to the United States. But all that was in Venice goals, Santa Monica. The first couple of trips over, the gym was packed full from all the best athletes in the world. But then as the years went by, the gym started becoming very quiet. And coming from a gym that was clanking and banging, a lot of heavy weightlifting, a lot of motivation, there was hardly any motivation in Gold's Gym. There was a lot of old guys who were retired and they were just potting around, talking to girls. And I'm like, why have I moved the other side of the world to see this? I want to be around the savages, the best. I want to sharpen my sword. And it was a couple of months later that I heard about a gym up in Fullerton, California. And I borrowed my friend's car, jumped up in the 405, had no clue about traffic, you know, coming from the UK. Stuck in the 405 for an hour, finally got to this gym. And then this gym became my new home for the next couple of years. And that was a gym called Coliseum Gym. And the first day there, the owner at the time, who now full circle trains in my gym, Milo Sachev, he introduced me to another guy who was my age. And he said, you guys need to work, need to meet. Flex wants to move up here. He was kind of speaking on my behalf. And he was like, you can put him up in your house, right? And this kid from Hawaii, awesome guy, Everett Lacroix. He was the housing manager for Chapman University in Orange County. So he was able to hide me in the housing stuff. I slept on a sofa for a year and a half. Horrible, no AC, everybody was broke. When it was hot, it was hot. When it was cold, it was cold. Sticky sofa, you know, that old school leather. And then the leather had peeled off and it was just fabric. That was my life for a long time. But I was focused on that goal and that dream to be the best. And I turned up every single day, sometimes twice a day to be at that gym, to be part of the photo shoots. That's where all the photo shoots for Flex magazine were taking place. I stayed in shape and basically pleaded for the opportunity. I'm in shape. A lot of these guys were under contract back then. We were getting paid big six-figure contract sums and turning up not in shape. So I'd be like, hey, I'm here. Your camera's set up. Take some photos of me, you know, in a respectful way. And in the end, them calls started coming in. It's like, Flex, jump in. And then I'd have a small little article in Flex magazine that came out 3 months later. And then them articles went a little bit bigger. And then it was a full page. And yeah, it was just putting myself in front of people to not be ignored. And also kindness kills, right? I won the respect of these incredible photographers by just being respectful and waiting for my chance. I wasn't annoying. I was like, hey, this is an opportunity for me. I'll jump in. I'll stay in shape all year, which I did. And it's suffice to say, I had every reason, Randall, to go home. Every reason. The business, my parents, my mum must, saying, oh, it's okay. If it's not working out, come back home. And there was a little voice. That was that guy in the shoulder there. But what I tried to do back then, of all the things that were going wrong, 10, 15 things that weren't happening, give me that one thing that was. And I homed in on that. And that kept me in the game. And then one turned into two. And then I just kept on focusing on that. Of course, I'd go home. I was on a 90-day visa at the time, traveling visa. Totally abused that.
So does everybody else.
Yeah.
I forgot who I
I did forget because I needed to stay. Yeah, but I did do a couple of trips over to Mexico, I'm not going to lie. But I did go back home, save up my money. And also going back home reminded me of why I needed to be back in the United States. I love my home. I love all the attributes that my culture has exposed me to. You'll see my gym shortly. It's full of dragons. That's my country's flag, and my accent I've held strong on to.
Yeah, a little nervous to go there, by the way. I'm going to be intimidated.
No.
Same with you, just,
No, you'll grow when you walk through the door.
In front of me, I don't know.
No, it's going to be fun for you. But it's part of my culture. It's part of my DNA, and that's one of the reasons why I went home as much as I did and stayed back, because I would go home not only just to see my family, and get motivated for the reason why I was leaving everybody to do what I needed to do.
So let's talk about motivation, which is one of the goals. It's the central goal of my podcast, which is to inspire and motivate people to be the best that they can be. And I think most people listening to my show want to be the best at what they be. They want to be successful. They want to live up to their potential. They want to crush it. So tell us about Mr. Olympia, what it is, and at what point did you say, I want to be the single best person in the world at what I want to do?
Well, that, to answer backwards, was the moment that I stepped off that plane coming to the United States. I didn't come here to be second. I didn't come here to make up numbers on stage. I also was coming off an unbeaten amateur career. So there was only one thing that I knew, and that was win. So that mentality, there's the Flex Lewis, the humble one that's sitting in front of you, and then there's the alter ego version. Now the alter ego, I was coming here and I was going to dominate. But bear in mind, that ridiculous mindset was so skewed because the champion at the time was Ronnie Coleman, the greatest of all time. And I was saying to myself, I will be Mr. Olympia. But you have to have a delusional mindset in many cases to go after certain things until momentum happens and it turns into reality. But again, coming from Wales, everything I was talking about was a delusion. I want to be a millionaire. I want to be the best in this. So I want to start up my business. Delusion. So I was like, okay, keep telling me that I can't do this. So getting off that plane.
Feeding the beast.
Tell me I can't do it, and I'll somewhat find a way to prove you wrong. And it's, like I said, a transcending tone that's happened throughout my life. And going back to the timeline, me stepping off that stage, I knew that I wanted to be a bodybuilder as soon as I got exposed to it. And going back home, was fueling my fire. So when I committed myself and I got my athlete visa, finally, when I didn't have to go back every 90 days, I could control my narrative then and my environment, because I wasn't going back anywhere anytime soon, because there's a different mentality being in the UK to being in the US. And the attributes that I was around in the US, when I would go back to the UK, was somewhat being bled over. Now, this mentality here, and maybe it's something that comes from school, everyone wants to be great. Coaches tell students, you got to be the best. You didn't give your all, demand more from yourself. You don't have that back home. In sports, yes, but for the most part, the culture that I grew up in the academic side of things, I wasn't an academic student. So I got told how many times, cows fly home, that I was stupid. The word stupid is always used.
Yeah.
Different era of teachers too. But this was me. I knew that bodybuilding was in my control. If I wanted to be bigger, just like an artist, Arnold spoke about this, put some clay on, sculpt the body. For me, it was time in the gym, earning my stripes through compounded time periods of focusing on this. So going back to what I was saying, When I was in the US, I was focused. I wasn't leaving anytime soon. I didn't have to leave in 90 days. I could truly go all out and focus on everything that I was trying to achieve, and that was become the best. And I won my pro card whilst going back and forth. When I was to do my first pro show, I was living here. Now that said, they created the new class, which at the time was 202, not 212. So I thought, oh my gosh, what a beautiful thing. This is meant for me. And that's what we done. We threw ourselves in the hat in the ring for that, and that was my focus, that was my goal, and to be the best 202 at the time.
Right, so just for people who don't know, that's 212 pounds.
Absolutely, and also
right. What do you weigh now?
Probably the same.
212 pounds?
Oh, no, I'm lighter.
Right.
So there was the original 202.
Okay, 202.
202.
And you go up.
And then they bumped it up 10 pounds, which is where I found my home.
Okay.
The 202 wasn't a struggle, but it was a new year of show, and a lot of the guys who turn pro as a middleweight, light heavyweight, they can't hold their own to the open class guys. So they created this class, kind of like Arnold and Franco back in the day, two height classes, but this was weight. And what we're talking about, also to clarify for the audience listening, is the Mr. Olympia. That is the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. There's no higher title that can be won. You could say, well, Flex, you said Mr. Universe, which a lot of people know more than, believe it or not, than the Mr. Olympia. But the Mr. Universe is an amateur title in a different federation. The Mr. Olympia is the highest title you can win of all federations. It's the king of the hill. So that was my goal, to become Mr. Olympia. And obviously when they created this class, my goal was to become Mr. Olympia in that field. And then I was all in on that from the moment that they put that news out there.
So you won 7 in a row. Let's talk about the first win.
The first win.
Right, so what was the exact feeling at that moment that you won?
Exact moment, man, I think it was a multitude of emotions. More than anything else, it was like, you fucking done it. You said you were going to do it when you came here. And even going back to the memories of me breaking my elbow, right? I was told back then, kind of not to take myself off the place, but I was half a centimeter away from having my arm amputated at 15. So that was part of that mentality. It's like, wow, you nearly lost your arm. And you've got a pin in your arm and a scar that's showing on your arm right now, which is there. Still got a pin in my arm, and I was able to achieve this. You can achieve anything. And also it was kind of like a middle finger to the guys who told me I couldn't do it too. I love it too, I love that. I celebrate my successes and also kind of celebrate the, not that I told you so, but it's just, I don't need to say it, because nobody's gonna come out and say, oh, I was wrong, I'm sorry. Yeah. But a lot of people hate their words. And being able to call yourself the best of the best, and also not come from, you know, the US, which is bodybuilding is obviously a big US sport. It was, anyways, gone more international now. Was reassurance for me that I could do really anything, respectively, within certain parameters that I put my mind to. But I also knew that this show now was the first foot down of what was about to change. Because when you win the title, it comes with a complete new set of responsibilities. You're the champ. You're in media. How you walk, talk, act, how you conduct your business on social media, how you talk to your fans that are there standing for 3 hours in some cases. So thankfully, as I mentioned in the earlier part of the podcast, I learned a lot of lessons from being the paper boy, having my business, that when I was able to talk to these fans, I try to give everybody the experience that they should have with a champion, as opposed to the one that everybody's kind of got to know, where it's like, I hate that. I hate the stereotype. And also another reason why I marched against the bodybuilder stereotype was I wanted to do something different and march to my own beat to my drum, but yet make sure that in doing so was aligned morally to what I believe in and who I am as a person. So kind of, you know, elaborate what I was saying, but bodybuilders have that stereotype of being the biggest guys on stage, the biggest guy in the gym, how many sets you got left, I need to work that piece. I hated that. I was always in baggies, I was always in my 3 or 4X t-shirt, that's how big I was back then, covered up. I never wore a tank top in public. I just wanted to stay against it. And it also has allowed me to get into different spaces and be around different people, because the business side of things was also prevalent during the Olympia stuff too. I started my different businesses up. But being a bodybuilder, just by looks, you get, you know, whatever perception that person has of X, whether they've met somebody in a gym and they're cocky or obnoxious, whatever it is. I've been privileged and blessed to fly all over the world and sit in business class, first class, next to some amazing people who have never met a bodybuilder but have that stereotype. These people, full circle, have no interest in bodybuilding but have come to watch every one of my Mr. Olympias. And these people are in different genres, from diamond mines to waste management companies. But again, you kill people with kindness. I would sit on a flight next to these people. First thing I'd say, sorry, I have to eat every 2 to 3 hours as part of my job. Wouldn't talk about bodybuilding, what I won. They might not even find out that I'd won the Mr. Olympia. I would find water on that level and speak to people. So I felt it was my duty, my honor, my goal to conduct myself. And then obviously the media obligations opened up. So going into my second year, compared to everybody else who I stood on stage next to, I already had this added element of cameras on me, us demanding more time for me, which put another spoke in the works. But it also allowed me to adapt and be like, okay, this is part of it. You wanted to be the champ, you trained to be the champ. This is the unspoken about elements that come part of being in the shoes you're in right now. And I embraced it. You know, I used it to fuel my fire. You know, winning the first, I wanted to win the second, to prove to not only myself but everybody that it wasn't a fluke. There was 1 or 2 pros that were missing in the first one that returned to the second. There was a little bit of shit talk, a little bit of banter that went on, and they turned up. And suffice to say, the guys who beat me as a 202 guy didn't come close in the 212 category, because that was my class. And even though I was on the road doing all these extra stuff, taking the ability of me to focus on bodybuilding 100%, I gave these guys all the chances to catch me up. But when I had my chance and I was home, I was all in. And that's the time I was able to grow, make the changes needed and step on stage every single year with a new improved version of myself.
Did you cry when you won?
Good question. I probably did fake cry. I don't know.
Fake cry?
No, I cried.
Oh, you're a tough guy. We're going to be real on this show.
Yeah. No, I grew up in, as I said, in a very tough upbringing. Never seen my parents cry much. My mum, a little bit different, but more in pain. So when you emotionally win something, yeah, it was like a different world for me. I think more than anything else, I had tears. It was just like satisfaction tears. But it was years later that I truly learnt to embrace the journey. And collectively, memories, traveling, doing what I'd done, going the extra mile, having all these added elements that were against me in, you know, defending the title, injuries, whatever else, all the unseen, unknown stuff. That's when I started getting tears. Because when I was younger, it was like, oh my God, yes, I won. Like a couple of tears come. But then there was true emotion as the years went by. And a different set of tears when I had my kids too. But this was earned. And through sweat equity, blood, sweat equity, and a lot of lost time away from sacrifice. But there was a different, like I said, set of tears. But truthfully, the reason why I'm struggling to remember, I can't remember many of the shows. I was so in autopilot. I was a freaking machine. I won the Olympia. I went backstage, done my press, went to my after party, and at the after party I was always looking for an Irish goodbye because I had a cardio the next morning. I had to get my weight back down and I had to head to Korea the next weekend to win another show. So my mentality was always the next. So it was just like, yes, I won it. I'm the best in the world. Okay, go backstage, do my thing. Best in the world, best in the world, best in the world. Time to think and process. All right, what time is it? Okay, I got to get up and cardio at 6 o'clock tomorrow, 5 o'clock in the morning, get my weight back down. So it was always on to the next, always on to the next. So now to answer your question, it never really hit me until Christmas time. And the show was in September, when I was home in Wales, around creature comforts. And I was on my own, of course. I wasn't around people, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like, wow. But it never hit me at the time until my last. And the last was a promise to myself that this was going to be my last. I put it out in the air, my last 212, and I was going to be present. I would enjoy it. I would have sensory overload. And I can remember thinking about me putting my foot from the cold concrete backstage onto the first set of stairs going up, and now the stairs got hotter and hotter because of the lights on stage. And I remember how hot the stage was, because they're unforgiving lights, the best in the world. All these things. I remember fan interactions. I remember seeing where my parents were sitting. Now, granted, you can only see so many rows back because of the lights.
Yeah.
It's so in your face, so I could see where they were sitting. If not, I could hear my mother anyway. My mother's got like the best accent. Of course, she called me James, standing out from everybody else too. So just hearing them in the crowd and being able to pinpoint certain people too. So I truly can say I enjoyed that show more than any other show. Yes, it was my last, it had a different meaning, but I had some real tears for that were in the moment and earned.
We all want affirmation from our parents, right? Whether it's subconsciously or not. Did your parents cry?
Oh yeah, they were crying when I was on stage. They also, from somebody who thought it was going to be a completely different world, they embellished it. My mum became like the mayor. She'd walk around the expos, like these people have like 2 or 3 hour lines. You're talking about the biggest names, in the fitness industry, if not connected to the fitness industry, aside from bodybuilders. And they all knew my mum. So this massive line that wrapped around the building, and they'd see my mother, they were like, she also knew the game too. She'd be like, oh, I just want to say hello. She'd go to the front, I just want to say hello. Oh, come in, come in. And some of the fans knew my mother anyway, so they would bring my mother in, skip the whole line. And she built a rapport of being, the mum on site, along with my dad who was trailing behind, but they truly loved what I was doing and seeing what I was doing with it. Again, like me, this was an untapped world. I didn't know where I was going until I discovered what I wanted to do with it. And then when they started seeing me do more and more stuff that was in the sport and then out, and how it didn't change me as a person, just because I was the champ, I wasn't talking a certain way. My mother actually has signs in the house that she's got up on the wall. One is something about basically egos. Whoever you think you are in this house, your family. She's got these little signs. I don't know if it's anything to do with me. Could be. But we just stayed all humble and driven. But again, seeing my parents assume that role also as their son was the champion, and then be part of every show. Outside of the international stuff, they never missed a show. They came to all the Olympias, all the big important shows they came to, and they seen they seen the unseen. They see me struggle, trying to make weight. Of course, my mum still is a nurse at mentality, see me like slow, trying to drag myself down to get on the scale, make that scale, and then just get back up on food. But I never shied away from not showing them that. We'd get a couple of rooms in different hotels, different suites, and they would all be joining and connecting. So as I started progressing in the sport, obviously my family started growing too. My daughter was been around it for years. My parents would come in and obviously kill several birds with one stone, see me, see the kids, my child at the time, my daughter, I'm sorry. But all the rooms would all be open. And they'd be in and out of the rooms all day. The media would come in, there were different people coming in for interviews, whatever it would be. They seen the reality of what it was. And then when I would walk out into the expo, it's just the pros, the bonus of what comes with being who you are. The security that takes you through, and the big lines that await you in different booths. Then you get shuttled from one sponsor to the other sponsor, all while still managing to stay on prep because you're still competing that next day. So I had to stay on times. And another thing too, which I hated, and this is my mentality, most of the guys that I competed against, or in the open class, would always sit down at these events. I hated that. So you got these fans who stand in line for you for a long period of time, and then they're kind of like going down to shake your hand. And it probably didn't, favor me by doing this, but I would stand the entire time. I love engaging people. I love talking and interacting, and just being in that moment was the moment that I earned. And somebody may have flown from the other side of the world, their only opportunity to meet me, they stood in line, they get the experience it. My rule of thumb was I treat the same person at the front as I do at the back. And I'd never walk away from the line. We'd always put people in the line to stop the line. And when I seen that last guy there, I was like, I've done my job. But I'd never walk away from the line, and I'd never do all these little things too, because it's an experience for the fans. I've also been on the receiving end of meeting athletes, and they weren't good experiences. In fact, some of them are friends of mine now. But I also remember the first interaction I had with them, and I was like, okay, I don't want that to be my case when I meet my fans. But my parents got to see that, be part of it, and also just live the moment with me too. Because again, we're all from the same small town, and now we're on this big stage and everybody's screaming my name.
We all want to be successful, right? And there's naysayers all along the way. There's the doubters, and so important when you want to be successful just to tune it all out. But
yeah.
I had a girlfriend in law school. I'd done well. Studying was my ticket out, right? So my mom struggled when we were younger, single mom. First memory in my life was my mom struggling because she couldn't pay her rent, crying because she couldn't pay her rent. So I always wanted to do better, and like you, I wanted to have money in my pocket where I could do certain things. And so graduated top 1% of my class at the University of Michigan, graduated, I did well at Northwestern Law School, and then I got a job. And I was in law school. I had this girlfriend home in Aspen, Colorado. Very fancy, very chic, very wealthy family. They had a home in the south of France. And I remember going to this party with them, and I didn't have the right clothes. I mean, this beautiful house in Red Mountain. Have you ever been to Aspen before?
I have not, but I'm very well.
Okay, guys, this huge mansion or whatever. Everyone there's sophisticated. I remember calling my mom, long distance back then, no cell phones, and just saying, hey, I feel insecure. I don't, it's weird. And she just told me to go back out and have confidence. And later on, during that trip, my girlfriend's mom took me for a walk around the block. And she said, and I was a motivated kid, right? But they wanted her daughter to marry someone of wealth. And so we took this walk around the block, and she said, how much money is it going to take for you to stop dating my daughter?
True story.
True story. I remember we were walking by the Little Nell. It had started to snow. And I remember looking at her. I was 22 years old. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself,
it's a love of your life too, right?
I mean, you see this stuff on TV, and it was happening to me. I mean, it was like a fiction novel. And I thought, gosh, that's absurd. And in my mind, I said, gosh, one day, there will be a point in my life where if the situation were equal and we were measuring on that day, I don't think she would be saying that. And when our company went public, our stock closed the first day of trading at $14.4 billion. And it shot up 2 months later to $35 billion, which at the time was more than the market caps of Chrysler, Ford, and GM combined. And I'm from Detroit. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
When that happens to you, you're under the microscope like you're under the microscope, right? Everyone wants you to be arrogant. Everyone wants you to say the wrong thing. Everyone just wants to criticize you. There's people who are not happy for you. I'm smarter than that person, and people want to call it luck. None of my friends thought it was luck. The people who knew I slept on couches, I worked, I was in the library till 11 o'clock when everyone was out drinking at the bar. But I remember the one person who I hoped had read stories or things in the media, newspapers, magazines, how this kid had done really well, a kid from humble roots in Detroit. And I remember thinking, is there one person, did she ever know? And I learned later that she did know.
Oh, no.
And that was a source of some satisfaction for me. I mean, I never called, I never sent her a newspaper clipping. But
should have.
It's like, you don't want to be that asshole, right?
Yeah.
And I kept thinking to myself, I want to be the same person that I am.
Yeah.
I obviously have a lot more money than I had before. It felt pretty damn good.
It's a win, right? It's a win. I mean, I've never heard of anybody having personally a conversation from somebody's parents that say, hey, you shouldn't do it, my kid, anymore because you don't make any money or you don't come from money. That's honestly, I couldn't imagine being in your shoes, because I've come from humble beginnings and getting told that, especially at an age where you're kind of all in. You haven't even started your life at that point in time. Now, if you just said you were motivated, right? So I'm guessing you were already
Very
looking,
motivated.
yeah, looking to do stuff as I was.
Well, want to be rich, by the way.
Yes.
Wanted to have my own business and want to make it on my own, which
Yeah.
I did, and wanted to be wealthy so I could not worry about money every single day of my life.
Same thing, but to get that in your head. I mean, listen, I probably have a different story, but as that was a love of yours, right? I was told by people that maybe I were friends with, I wouldn't say love, but you're not going to do it. You were told by somebody's mum that you were dating, and that's a hella motivating factor. Again, powered by trauma, right? Whatever that was to you, it was like, I'm going to fucking prove you wrong.
Yeah.
And you did. Not wrong by tenfold, hundredfold. So now they're probably talking about you in family get-togethers. Oh, do you know that little Mandy used to date, you know?
No doubt.
Exactly. And listen, it is what it is. But isn't that a great thing where you've been able to feel that feeling, horrible as it is?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that has been let out of Pandora's box, I call it, many times to fuel you through some of the hardest of days.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
I started as a kid too, so I was bullied from the time I was 3 years old through senior year of high school, and everyone, you know, they make fun of me, River or Randy and all, and it doesn't do well for your self-confidence. I mean, when I was younger, I'd be afraid to go to school. I'd come home crying every day, and all the people that made fun of me, everyone knew the story, by the way, back home in Detroit.
Of course they did.
Everybody. And I had since seen those people. I'd gone back to visit my family, and you bump into people, and it was just a whole different perception. And then you go to your high school reunion, and you're the most successful person there, not by, and there were successful people, but when you hit it big in the technology business, it's not like having a good mortgage company and you've got 50 people. It's just the valuations of these companies are big. So that
should have felt good.
Fucking awesome, by the way.
Yeah, it should do.
Yeah.
Again, you lived in your own shoes and been in your own shell for all these years. So for somebody that can just judge, and this transcends into some of myself too, somebody can judge you based on reading your bio, right? They'll assume, they presume, but when you hear about that story that you just spoke about being bullied, and it's all made you into the savage that you became. You know, staying in the library for late hours, making sure that you put all this extra work in academically into literature and class, homework, whatever it would be, to then turn into the monster you are right now, in the good way,
Yeah.
And
animal.
Animal.
I use that word the most complimentary way.
Yeah,
as I want to fund an animal.
Yes.
I mean, I'm a venture capitalist. Like, I want a fucking animal who I know is going to do every last thing to have a win. I want that person to think they're on a raft in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, because this is how I think, that I'm going to find land.
Yeah, you've got to have that mentality too. I thought about that too, weirdly. I put myself in these weird scenarios in the past where it's like, okay, what happens if I was stranded on a desert island? What would I do to survive? I don't know why I've thought about stuff like that, but now that you've mentioned that analogy, it's truly a tool that I've kind of discovered where I came to the United States. I knew one person. I was going to make it. That's the island, right? It's like, okay, I come here. I don't know anybody. There's coconuts up in the tree. There's, I can collect water in these leaves when it rains. When I came to the US, I had no money, very little money, should I say. Everything that I had went all on food. Thankfully, I didn't have to pay rent because I stayed in Ed's house for the first part. But I had to ration everything out. And thankfully, again, key people in my life at that point in time, whether they knew it, now they do, they would give me protein, just gone out of date protein, that I was able to survive and turn into meals. All these small little collective things allowed me to stay in the game when I had the excuses to go back home because I didn't have it. But instead, I was like, okay, I'd go to local supplement stores and be like, hey, you guys got any dented product you want to get rid of? And I got free product from that too. So I hustled and I worked and I pour into relationships, because these same guys that were around me then are still around me to this day. So much so that one I've already mentioned, and one of the owners of the Max Muscle store is now in my gym training on the daily, and he'll tell you all these stories that I can't even remember about me coming in thick Welsh accent. I've worked really hard to make sure I'm understood every other word, but back then I had this thick accent, and that's what they kind of knew me for. There's this kid that speaks English but doesn't speak English. So they all seen the potential I had, and they also seen that I was relentless in my pursuit. So whether they knew I was going to make it, I don't think they thought I was going to make it. The statistics were so against me. If I was a Vegas betting odds, I'd be, God knows, plus 1,500, whatever. But I did. And now I can lean into these people who helped me back then and say, hey, you believed in me back then. Whether they did or not, they did believe in me to give me protein powder, whatever it was, small little, or some people would take me out for food. And Cena was struggling, but was all in on this. It's just full circle now. But again, all in, right? You've got to come into something, and if you're not all in on whatever it is, I was all in on bodybuilding doing that chapter. Chips on, chips all in. But if you're not all in and you're leaving things off the table and you're playing this precautiously, then you're not going to achieve what you want to achieve, because you're giving yourself a plan B. And I came to this country without a plan B. There was many times, as I said, my parents were like, okay, come home now, we've been gone for a couple of months, and you know, if things are not working, come home, plan B. My business was a plan B. I didn't see it as a business, plan B. I was all in on plan A. And plan B I already created a few years ago. And I had got contracts from the council, which were hard to get. I had councils from the NHS, which were basically paying me a lot of money, even though I had to submit an invoice, I'd get it a month later, to move a bed from one hospital to the next. They gave the contract to me and my team. And I was all in on that new chapter. Because if I allowed myself to go home, I would find myself finding that fast cash again, and I'd be still in the groove of moving people. And I knew there was something much better for me, and it was in the United States. And that's why I said, I'm all in, not going back.
So a lot of things motivate us, and people who say this doesn't motivate them, I think they're lying, and I don't trust them.
Sorry.
So no, I'm talking about money.
Oh, money, yes.
Okay, so money is a motivator for everybody in the world. I think if you're poor and are struggling to put food on the table, you need money to put food on the table, and then you want to be a millionaire when you're younger, and there was no such thing, and now you are a millionaire. The average bodybuilder makes $40,000 to $70,000 a year. It depends where you live, of course.
Yeah,
the United States, you make more. And you have to be in the United States to be in the sport and be at the top level of your sport. Mr. Olympia, I think, pays $400,000 to $500,000 now per the top prize. But
open class.
What's that?
Open class.
Open class. So where does money rank as a motivation factor in your life? And what's your advice to all of the either future bodybuilders out there or non-athletes out there where money should rank in terms of their motivation on their quest for success?
When I made my first, I would say, bit of money that just didn't cover the bills, I started looking at making my money make me more money. Started looking into opportunities to invest my stuff into. Started my first business up, and that was a smoothie bar in Tennessee. That was my first ever business, US business, with a tax ID and all that stuff, outside of me being the brand, of course.
That was 2000 to 2004.
Yeah, you got the dates too. And that was a exciting time. I was with Gaspari Nutrition, and that was the first time I ever started that business. But I knew that I wasn't getting paid the money that I wanted to get paid, so I had to create them opportunities yet again. So prize money in the 212 is significantly different to the open class. So the open class was getting 400,000, 500,000, whatever it is right now. The 212 was getting 40,000. So I had to be very intelligent with my ways of making extra money up through guest posing, through different brand endorsements. Yet I never looked at myself as a subcategory in the sport of bodybuilding. You know, Mr. Olympia, the open class, is always going to be looked at as the top of the tree. The 212 class was created for athletes within that realm. And I was like, this is the Mr. Olympia for everybody who is at this weight category. And I truly believe that. Why would I not? I earned the stripes. So monetary-wise, not much money in competing. Business, sponsorships, I made more money 1 month. I made more money a month than I did winning the Olympia because of strategic planning, investing in people, which turned into opportunities, and showing up as the champion in rooms, masterminds, whatever else, to network, to create further opportunities. So the mentality of a bodybuilder is truly loved in the entrepreneurial world because you stick to a goal and a game plan, come hell or high water, on that date, whatever it is, June 4th, whatever it is, you will do that show if you're of that mentality. Injuries, setbacks, there's no stopping. So if you transition that same mentality into entrepreneurship, that's a savage. So at a very young age, as I said, from the experience I had from being in Wales, I said to myself, if I'm not going to make money in bodybuilding, as a businessman, I'm not doing this. This isn't just about titles and accolades. Yes, that's the perks of everything, being known as the best, but this has got to be a business. I've sacrificed my business in the UK to come here. So I picked up my first contract from Joe Weider at 23.
Which was the exact set of weights that your dad had.
At the exact same weights.
In the barn.
Yeah,
the log barn.
wow. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yes, full circle moment. I haven't thought about that for a long time. And he sponsored me. Now, Joe Weider, the godfather of bodybuilding, he's the guy who discovered Arnold. He's the guy who owned Flex magazine, Muscle and Fitness, and a multitude of different magazines back then. To have that little extra money coming in from my sponsorships truly allowed me now to invest in myself a little bit more. So me being the biggest investment, being the brand. The second thing was starting to look at opportunities to invest into that made me more money, like outside of the sport, but then still was around me. So I started putting into businesses. I started doing things completely different at a young age. Obviously, as the years went by, I started investing into different businesses, which I'm sure we'll speak about. But monetary-wise, I was making the most money that I've ever seen in my life by signing with a supplement company that truly signed me as a racehorse. I was with a company for a long time, Gaspari Nutrition. Shout out to Rich Gaspari, one of the legends in the sport. Traveled around the world with him.
By the way, it's so important to give the shout outs, right? Because no matter what we do, I mean.
I served the lessons.
Yeah.
So Rich was one of these guys who had been there, done it, was second to Lee Haney, trained with Lee Haney, you know, one of the greats. And Rich was into the business world. He had Gaspari Nutrition, he was blowing up, and I was his first athlete that he signed. So we traveled the world together. I was able to get into rooms and listen to how the dynamic of business was going on overseas, you know, how they would leverage certain things. Okay, we're going to give you 1,000 shirts, but this is the price point that you're going to buy now. If you buy this, it was just an entrepreneur's dream to be sitting there, listening to the conversation that went on in an apprenticeship. Bottom line. And I was living the shoes of what Rich Gaspari used to be in. So we train, we hang out, he's like a big brother to me. And then his company started growing. I was there for a long period of time. And again, I'm very loyal to the T. But again, I started having this massive carrot dangled in front of me. There was a lot of money. And I said no to it for 2 years straight in hopes that they were going to match it. And they brought somebody else in. Again, this has nothing to do with Rich. Guy that never was in the industry, one of these C-level execs that don't know what you've done. They just tell you what you need to do. And they were like, just be loyal, suck it up and get paid. I was like, okay, you're going to ruin this relationship. And they did. And then I had an opportunity to sign with another company, and they offered me a ridiculous salary. And I slid the paper back over to them and said, life-changing. And I looked at it and I was like, oh my God. I went back home and I told Ali, I said, it might be the best and the worst decision I've ever done. But I looked at this, it had a great contract, and I said, it's got to be life-changing. And 20x.
So, I mean, nothing like a 20x, right?
Nothing like a 20x.
So,
and perks, and bonuses.
So, You've said that where a lot of bodybuilders go wrong is that they're very focused on the sport only. You've always had a long-term view of careers. I mean, so many people, they do one thing, they have a fairly short career shelf life, for whatever a better word or not, but you didn't think that way. You've networked, and network is really the wrong word because it's about building relationships. So tell us how you build those relationships and how to make them authentic and not just a, hey, Flex, meeting you one time, hey, can I get something out of you?
Yes. See, that point right there. Because I was surrounded with MOs, being who I was. So if I had the chance to meet somebody that I wanted to genuinely meet, or I got introduced to somebody and I didn't know who they were, I soon learned who they were or not. I just genuinely love meeting people. And if you've got greatness or you've succeeded, you've done something, then even more so, I want to know how, maybe. So you mentioned the word authentic. Authentic is what I really stand by. Whether it was with my fans, meeting my fans, and they're at the gym every day. They come from all over the world, to meeting people that I aspire to stand next to on stage, or have been on stage, or that's in the bodybuilding space, to business. So I try to have an eclectic version of people around me at all point in times who weren't in the sport and were in the sport, because they give me a different perspective and a different mentality check. Because if you've got somebody that's so ingrained in the sport and that's all they do every single day, they don't see past that. But if you have people who are kind of successful like yourself, that are been there, done that, and got the t-shirt many times, then how can I integrate what you've done into what I'm doing right now and then exit to do other things? But what lessons can I learn from you and you organically and authentically? Not tell me the cheat sheet because I'm going to abuse my friendship with you right now. I hate that. Again, it happens to me all the time. But also no, I read people very well. I've got this ability to be like, okay, there's an MO. But the skill set that comes with being able to talk to people, again, it comes from the paper route, from the business, and being able to talk to different people at different levels, whatever they're in, sports, athletes, coaches, successful business people, parents, whatever it is, at Olympias, at airports when I'm walking through. Because maybe somebody might recognize me and then I get to meet the whole family and I meet everybody and then they all become fans. So every opportunity to meet somebody is an opportunity to make an impression. And unfortunately, bodybuilders have this mentality. It's a stereotype where they're so big that they're unapproachable. When that should be your calling card. It's like, I know I feel unapproachable, but I'm gonna make sure that I'm not that guy, but meet me first. So I love the stereotype and I love breaking it, but I encourage all these bodybuilders that are, again, have or feel like they're the stereotype, to break it. Put yourself out there, meet people, because you're in the sport right now. This is the life you live in right now in 2024. 2025, God forbid, you might have an injury. And if you haven't set yourself up by networking or pouring into people or selectively putting yourself out there, then you're still in this space now of an injured, disgruntled bodybuilder who wants to be up on stage that doesn't and have no opportunities. And unfortunately, when you're injured, sponsorships go, everything goes, and you just have a forgotten face. So it's creating the opportunities, putting hay in the barn when you're chasing the title, whether you are the title holder, whatever it is, and also networking to make sure that not only you are received the way you want to be received, but also create the opportunities that are outside the peripheral vision that you're in right now.
You got a lot of cool friends. You get texts from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson on your birthday.
A few of them.
I mean, it's pretty cool, right?
He is awesome. Yeah, I'm not
You're hanging out with The Rock and just...
We were supposed to catch up this past Super Bowl, but he only had one chance to train, and it was at 1 o'clock in the morning. I was like, you still should have told me. I would have come down. But yeah, he's definitely one of them guys who is, honestly, so high up there in my eyes of motivation and an example of a good human being. There's not one day, not one Father's Day, he's not beaten me to a Happy Father's Day text. And also, just random check-ins too, you know. I've granted both sides, right? When I message him, I don't expect a reply back. It's kind of one of them like, hey, just checking in, you hope all's well, you know. He might message me back straight away, he might message me back in 48 hours, you know. But then I see what he's doing on Instagram, and the guy doesn't sit still.
Yeah.
So when you think you're busy, there's levels to this stuff. And I understand that he is at a completely different level than anybody I personally know are. But when somebody says, oh, I was too busy to text back, you know, it's like, okay, well, I always throw in, well, what you heard from DJ.
That's amazing. So many times in life, one thing leads to the second thing, and we don't think about what's out there, the third, the fourth, even the 100th thing. So tell us about Dragon's Lair, and one path leads to a fifth path, and you got to tell me what the posing room is, and then you really got to tell me about what the torture room is.
Yeah, there's
torture room. You got shackles in there and chains.
No, thankfully, but yes, that's what it sounds like. It's definitely a place where you can enjoy pain. I do. I fall asleep. But a lot of people, you can hear them laughing because they're in pain. You know, the massage therapist is what we're talking about with the torture room. But so I own Dragon's Lair Gym, which is in Las Vegas, here in the state we're in right now. And it's become truly a destination place now, where people travel from all over the world, not to come to Vegas, but to come to my gym and train in and out of my gym. It's amazing. So it's like Disneyland. So you have people that are coming in that have been on a flight for like 20-something hours, walk into the gym, and they're, oh my God, it's so great to be here. I remember being that guy. I remember being that kid when I walked through the doors of the Mecca Gold's Gym. So what I've tried to do is duplicate that. We're not trying to be the Mecca. We're being the Dragon's Lair. But there's elements of what the experience that I had when I was that 19-year-old kid coming off the plane for the first time that I now see and live through the people that come through my gym. And we grew this from a concept. I came to Las Vegas, as I said, during COVID, and it was a ghost town. It was I Am Legend. Nobody on the strip. I mean, my wife knew. We had to be here. When, you know, there's blood in the water, you know, people can swim away from it, or you can see the sharks. And I was all about jumping in and exploring what I could do in Las Vegas. Obviously, I had the private gym, which started off in Boca Raton. We had a lot of celebrities, but just to quickly tell you the story there, I started up a gym. It was because I was going to different gyms, and they were doing these meet and greets for me, unbeknownst to me. And went to another gym, something happened there, opened up the Dragon's Lair, a lot of VIP celebrity friends of mine started using it, no windows, no doors. So we had paparazzi sitting outside the gym, we had kids sleeping in cars, waiting for the top athletes to turn up. And me and my wife knew during COVID we had something. We didn't want to put it in Florida, she's born and raised there. So we came out to Vegas. And when we came here, I was like, okay, this is the opportunity. I do a lot of stuff in the West Coast with Monster, being one of my sponsors for UFC and stuff. And
you're the only bodybuilder sponsor they have.
Yeah, thank God. And we went to this town, and we're like, okay, we're going to move here. No, as I said, she's born and raised there. My fear was my daughter and the schooling system. We found a schooling system that was correctly aligned for her, and we were all in. We started building this, and we opened it at the tail end of COVID, and we built through COVID. I had the goal to open up this badass gym. Was there fear? No. Was there concern? No. I had the same feeling that I did when I jumped on that plane coming to the United States for the first time. And that was, this is going to work. It's not going to be easy. You just got to put your hat back to front and work. And now the Dragon's Lair has become the #1 tourist destination in the country, where we have people that come in, like I said, from all over the world and get day passes, week passes, move here for camp, moved here from other sides of the world just to train in that gym, to be around other athletes. And now we have, you know, a wide range of celebrities that train there and call this their home from home when they're in town. So, and simultaneously, we, you know, I've been able to grow and scale as I was competing to Arsenal Strength. 2015 is when we started the business, and now my gym is predominantly Arsenal Strength, which is my company you mentioned earlier. That
fastest growing fitness gym equipment company in the world.
Yeah, it's been
How
an
good
incredible
does that
ride.
feel?
Oh, it's great. Feather on my hat. But again, one of the things I in business is a different side of me. If we're talking bodybuilding, there's a humbleness. But when in business, I do enjoy hearing that stuff, because it's a different animal that I can control my body. I can put the muscle on. I can control my business too, but it's a lot more variables, right? There's a lot more other things, especially when you're involved with scaling and stuff. And yeah, I have incredible, partners. The founder, Andrew Hall, and his wife, Jamie, based in Knoxville, Tennessee. That's where we make and manufacture the gym equipment, American made, American steel. And the company's grown exponentially now where, as you mentioned, we've got that title and we've got, DJ, The Rock has got our pieces, Dana White's got our pieces, and they were all bought.
Dana's amazing, by the way.
Awesome guy.
One of the best dudes around.
Dana has been Dana's helped me so much in this town. I tell him all the time when I see him, he said, I haven't done nothing. I'm like, you have, because it's just speaking about somebody when they're not in that room. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So I interviewed Dana at an incredible conference founded by Kelly O'Connor called the Scale Global Conference. It was this incredible conference last May in Vegas.
Huh.
And she's a big fan of my podcast. She said, will you moderate a panel, interview someone on stage? I've never done a live interview before. I've had a lot of podcasts, but in front of 2,000 people in a grand ballroom at the Bellagio Hotel, it's a little intimidating. So I'm doing a ton of prep, and it went really well on stage with Dana. Made him cry on stage.
Really?
Which is, another story.
Tough.
Another story.
Yeah, that's tough.
He said to me, this is an Oprah moment. And when I got off stage, my son's a huge UFC fan. And he wanted to come to this conference. I said, no, it's a little weird. You're 20 years old, you're a sophomore in college. I don't think there's going to be another college kid there. And I don't know Dana.
Yeah.
So it'd be a little foreign to me. But I said to Dana at the end of the show, I said, my son's a huge fan. And will you shoot a video for him and say hi? He said, yeah, give me that phone. So here's what he did. So I'm going to turn up the volume because it's gonna play quickly. We'll have to rewind this.
Can't believe you didn't. Hey Charlie, Dan White here. I'm in Vegas with your dad. I can't believe he didn't let you come to this thing. Well, I mean, come on. How does he not let you come when he knows what a big UFC fan you are? So you know what we're gonna do? We'll make it up to you. Your dad has my number. And you pick the fight you want to come to. I don't care what it is. It could be Conor McGregor fight, whatever fight you want, I got you.
That's awesome.
Thanks for the support, and I look forward to meeting you soon, buddy.
He's such a great guy.
Who fucking does that, by the way? How good is that?
Incredible. I know I won't pull my phone out, just disappeared somewhere, but to your point, I had my 40th birthday, and my wife kind of surprised me. So I'm a big UFC fan. That's my sport that I follow, inside out.
Sugar Sean was on my show a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I seen. So I went to the UFC, which John Jones and Stipe were supposed to fight on. Unfortunately, John got injured.
Right.
But
that was
nonetheless,
going to be in
New York.
In New York,
Madison Square.
Yeah.
So I went to the boxing that week, which I kind of knew I was going to go. We were in New York, and we were going to do like a 40th birthday trip. And then I started getting these little hints that we might be going to the UFC. Now, Dana hadn't told me nothing. Hunter Campbell's another friend of mine, didn't tell me anything. And then Ali kind of had to let the cat out of the bag the day before. It's like, okay, you probably guessed, but you're going to the UFC. I don't know what it was, UFC, whatever it was. And of course, Dana found out it was my birthday and put the full red carpet down and experience. And they always look after me. But here's another thing too. I was going to the UFC fights. So the guys knew about Arsenal Strength. Hunter Campbell has some of our pieces. He came into the gym. We met first time. We clicked it off. He's like, I know you're into UFC because I've seen some of the stuff you do. And I guess he has like an Instagram account with his name not on it. So I love UFC. He was like, you want to come to the Apex? Now, granted, COVID. And UFC and WWE were the only two things that were going on during that period of time.
Very smart of them.
Yes, incredible. Keep the ranks moving. And he said, you want to come to one of the fights? Now, me thinking like it was going to be in a couple of months' time, I enthusiastically goes, yeah, just let me know whenever in the future. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Of course, not thinking anything would come of it. He was like, there's a fight coming on this weekend if you want to come. I go, I thought there was no crowd. He said, there isn't. Went there, sat there, watched the UFC fight, Apex, all the rules, all the regulations, social distancing, limited production. There was probably about 15 people in that room, with production included. And then you've got Dana, Hunter, DC, Joe Rogan, Arnick, Bisbin, all of them are there, social distanced. And then we all go back in the room like nothing happened, you know? Because it's like, oh, get this shit off our face. But we all were able to see the fights in real time, in real life. I was watching on TV anyway, but then to be part of that experience, that ambience, and that's a shout out to Dana and Hunter. I just moved to this town. My goal was 3 years I wanted to have a kind of relationship which ended up becoming in the first 3 months.
Isn't that amazing? So we were going to go to the Bones Jones fight in New York. We had a trip planned. He got injured. So we went to the fight in December. And one thing I recommend as a father to you, it's the best thing that I've done, is take your kids on one-on-one trips every year. Dad trips only. Yeah. And it's been one of the best things I've done in my life, because you get that bond, right? Because you know, you're busy, I'm busy, you're in a ton of stuff. Your wife is incredible. I want to talk about her in a second too, but just having the bonding time, dad, daughter, dad, son, is incredible. So my son was 20, by the way. It's second time in Vegas. We race Ferraris and Lamborghinis out at that place. He likes to shoot guns. We go to a range, and you know, just like we went to Carbone. He wanted to eat there. By the way, we got the spaghetti, and you know, the waiter said, "Oh, you know, you want some truffle on that?" Yeah, it was $185 for that dish. What?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, like,
welcome to Vegas.
I'm like, okay, whatever. But you come here and set up with the tickets, go to will call. I don't know if we're sitting on the second level or what level or whatever. So you got the special wristbands. Don't know where we are, and we're in the right next. There's 4 rows right about
Dana section.
I mean, Gary Brecka was sitting in front of me, and who I met, and he's going to do my show, I think, next week or the following week, and it was so VIP.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I mean, he made us feel so good. My first experience. I'm a massive fan now, and it's amazing, as a leader of a company that now I think has a $20 billion market cap. They merged, and he built that company from nothing. Such a leader, touching every fan like you do as a star in the sport. That's how you build things. That's how you build loyalty and happiness, and that's how you get word of mouth. Because now I've said to my friends, man, you guys got to go check out these shows. They're incredible. Oh,
it's amazing. And to your point about Dana, right, in this town, he's truly looked after so many people. You know, these are the things that you hear about Dana on social media, and then you hear about Dana Vegas. And he's very well loved in this town. He looks after a lot of people, from the valet guys all the way to whoever's serving him. Yeah. And it's a testament to him, because people, first thing they think of when they speak about Dana is how great he is and what he's done, or they met him at this place. And again, shakes fans' hands, does the whole shebang, plays the part, promoter, but also still has the enthusiasm to do it every single event. That's hard. Yeah. To turn up and be that guy and more, because he's not just being the promoter, he's the face as well. He's on the press conferences. He has to know he has to watch all the fights to get all the feedback. He has to understand who's next. There's so much data, and he's still on top of it. He's still on the gas of the dynamics of how the UFC is moving and you know, evolving. And also, it's like, think about how many times Dana was told that this is never going to work. They're going to go bankrupt. This is cockfighting. This state had it banned. That state had it banned. He had to just believe in the brand and stay focused. You know, create a team of people that could allow him to be Dana White and allow the business to grow into these, you know, into the flow that it's become. And of course, may have started off being, you know, through lack of knowledge, this sport classed as whatever else, perception, as we've mentioned so many times. But now, my wife is one of them. When we first started dating, I'd have that thing playing on first thing in the morning, eating breakfast. She'd say, babe, turn this off. I don't want to see blood in the morning. No, she knows all these people personally. She loves UFC. We go to as many fights as we can together if I don't have to go on my own. And she's a true fan of the sport, but because she understands the sport, because of the knowledge that is being shown through the UFC by showing these athletes on things like Embedded, where you get to fall in love with the athlete and see that, oh my God, this guy isn't just, you know, the old stereotype, a thug, or somebody wants to pick a fight on somebody. No, this guy is highly educated. This guy was this, or this guy now is skilled in all these different skills, and he's actually training 3 to 4 times a day. And then you start gathering the value and the respect for these guys, because the UFC have seen it now from the branding and marketing element, and they promoting these fighters as well as promoting the fights. And Dana's done a great job of that. And yeah, kudos to him and the vision that he's seen in this company to where it is now and merging now with it's TKO. It's, oh my gosh, incredible.
Yeah. One of the things that's made me successful and has helped make my podcast successful is something I've been mentoring on this, called extreme preparation. I'm talking about not normal preparation, which someone may prepare 1 hour, 2 hours or something. I may do 20 or 30 or 40, depending on how important this is to be. But my goal is always, and I coach this, it should be everyone's goal who wants to succeed, to be the most prepared person who has ever stepped foot in that room and blow that person off the chair who you're meeting with.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how that leads to success, faster results, dramatically improved results that otherwise wouldn't have been possible.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about how extreme preparation has led to your success?
Oh, extreme preparation was bodybuilding, right? If I wasn't, if I didn't make a plan, I planned to fail. Bottom line.
First step, prepare to plan.
Yes. And that plan of action would be written down months before the show was even promoted. We'd have the game plan of where I needed to be, at what certain time, and also start moving my schedule around to make sure that I didn't book anything in that time period, because I didn't care what you were offering me. When I was on lockdown, I was on lockdown. I didn't allow anything to distract me, hence why I created the Dragon's Lair in Boca Raton. I controlled my variable. I knew who was training with me. I didn't allow anybody else to come in. It wasn't open to the public, but that's one of the things too. Preparation for me is everything. Even now with the new endeavors I'm getting into, if there's no plan, then like I said, you planning to fail. And there's so many lessons that I have learned through the bodybuilding chapters of my life that now I realize that's in my day-to-day that I didn't even know I was learning. That bodybuilding has truly taught me so many invaluable lessons that no book I could ever read could tell me. I might read something, but to live the moment, learn the lesson, and then be in another chapter of life now and be like, oh shit, I've been here before. But for me to get to that level of what I'm trying to achieve next, as you said, preparation. Even having a wild imagination, delusional ask of yourself is still there too. And if I'm the vessel of my ship, I'm the guy who can make it or break it or not even start it. So I've realized soon enough that if I want to be, if I want to be a freaking ballerina dancer, then I better hire a ballerina coach and start putting myself into there through whatever else. Bad example, by the way. But one true example is I'm doing a lot more public speaking. So the same thing that I thought, well, what I left with bodybuilding was a massive void when I retired. And I was trying to chase that hole that I had. And I didn't think I'd ever replace it. Public speaking is the closest thing I've ever come to. It scares the shit out of me. Growing up with a speech impairment, growing up, being told I had this, that, and the other, and now to be on stage and be asked, hey, how did you do it? Tell me your secrets. Again, that comes with preparation, right? If you're going up there and you're aimlessly talking all over the place and you're just going to bore the crowd. But having a plan of action is just like bodybuilding. If I don't make the preparation, then I'm going to look like a fool up on stage. So many correlations between public speaking and bodybuilding. And it excites me too. It excites me to get up there and just smash it out and deliver the message, deliver the story, and have something that motivates somebody in the crowd, whether it's everybody or whether it's one person. My job is up there to do the job that I've been asked to do there. And again, I'm now starting to do more masterminds, more speaking engagements, keynotes, and it's in a whole new world for me that hasn't filled the void of what competing gave me, because that was a different mentality I had to tap into, because you're exhausted and you still have to demand the best version of yourself on no energy. With this, it's trying to tap into something that didn't come naturally to me, that was talking and storytelling is good, but talking wasn't, and putting things, stories in the right order. But yeah, that's something I'm really putting stock in. I've hired a coach, and yeah, I got a speaking coach now, Renee Rodriguez. Shout out to Renee Rodriguez, and yeah, me and him have been putting together a plan of action, and we're going to hit a lot more stages this year.
That's awesome. I'm training to do some paid corporate speaking as well. My topic is extreme preparation.
There we go.
My speech is an hour and 10 minutes. It's 37 pages long, and I'm on, I think, rehearsal 250. We rented sound stages. We're going through it. I'm rehearsing in front of people. So
it's tough.
I'm super excited by it, though. I'm nervous. Speech impediment when I was younger. Can I get up there in front of 500 people? But
you're gonna,
man, I'm going to do it. I'm going to crush it.
That's the mentality you have to have.
Yeah.
If you go up there with the nerves of, oh, I need to make sure, or what if, then it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Put it out there, it will happen. But put it out there that nothing will happen. And also, it's like, even if it does happen, who knows? Only you. And that's what my posing routines taught me too. I used to be pissed when I didn't hit a certain pose on a certain mark, or I didn't hit it in sync with the music or whatever else. But nobody in the audience knew. The tens of thousands of people that were watching me didn't know. So when I'm up on stage right now and I'm speaking, maybe I didn't get it how I wanted to in my head before I thought, before I walked on stage, but I still delivered the message, maybe not as direct as I hope. But again, it's you. As long as you have the confidence to want to do what you're doing up there. Because listen, some of these motivational speakers up there right now, they're a joke. They haven't achieved anything. Renee, using his name, he says, give me the confidence of a 20-year-old life coach.
Who's done nothing.
What have you done?
There.
And there's so many out there.
Ridiculous.
So for me, I've lived a life. I've earned my stripes. I've got the failures. I've got the wins. All I'm doing is telling my story up there. So even if I don't get the timeline right at that point in time, move on. The message is still to be delivered. And it's me that's telling the story. I'm not reading a book. I'm telling my own book.
Right.
And I'm just in this chapter right now. We've got many more chapters to go.
That's awesome. We've talked about so many things. We
have.
talked about parents, growing up, challenges, failures, successes, achievements in business, pinnacle of our careers. But let's talk about the most important things in our life, which is our family. So tell us about your awesome wife, how she's changed your life, and your kids, and how important they are to you.
Well, myself and my wife come from two different backgrounds. So me, obviously, being Welsh, I don't know if the viewers know that already. Well, they've already gone halfway through the podcast, 3/4 through, but Welsh. My wife grew up in South Florida, Jewish. We met together. She was Miss USA. And again, I chased what I want to chase, and fell in love with this girl, knew that she was built differently to the other girls that I'd been speaking to. And I was living in Tennessee at the time. She was living in Florida. And again, we hit it off. We started flying back and forth. She started coming to Tennessee, wanted to move to be with me. And I thought, you know what? I've done everything in this area of Tennessee, and I'm flying out to this airport in Nashville all the time, and it's always a puddle jumper.
Yeah.
If you come to me, you're probably going to bump into a few ex-girlfriends that I don't want you to see. Maybe I'll move to Florida. Fresh start.
Small town angle.
Yes. So I ended up moving to Florida, and one thing about myself and my wife, from the very get, even when she started coming to visit me, I was living in a shit place. She came from a different world, but she fell in love with me, and all that I wanted to achieve in life, because I was speaking it out in the air too. I want to do this, I want to do that. And whether she believed I was going to do it or not, she was there, and she believed in me. And so much so, she started getting a little bit more involved with the business side of things, where I had a lot of fan mail, and they'd be all over the floor, and I had to hand sign all these fan mail from China to everything else. Have you ever tried to write Chinese? Terrible, by the way. Most of that stuff got sent back to me. But she said, babe, there's something called Shopify, which is relatively new at the time. These people's information is in there, you hit, and it prints out all their addresses, you peel them off and you put them on the packages. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. You're a keeper. What else do you know? So we ended up teaming up together. Now my wife runs all the companies. She's the CEO for the companies, owner. She's, I hate to say this, but she's boss bitch. She is an incredible entrepreneur, great speaker, by the way, too. She just found her own voice up there by coming to the masterminds with me, and she was like, wow, I can actually do this. I told you. But she had to hear it from other people, not from her biggest supporter, too. But the biggest gift that my wife has given me outside of her self-belief and confidence is two incredible children. And that is the biggest badge and trophy I have on any display, is having my son and my daughter, without getting emotional. But I always wanted to be a dad from a very young age. And when we found out my wife was pregnant, that was number 4, I think, of chasing titles. Maybe number 3, I can't remember. But either way, it was motivation that I never found before. It was a 6th gear because I knew this baby was coming. And it wasn't just me and my wife anymore, it was +1. And when I had my daughter in my arms, I was like, wow, I'm always going to take care of you. You're never going to have some of the struggles that I've gone through. And that motivation then, again, just found me another gear that I stayed on. And obviously, you know, 2 years ago, we found out my wife was, well, more than 2 years ago, but we found out my wife was pregnant again, and I was still in the bodybuilding mindset of phase, and becoming a dad again and being able to relive these moments now, but not as a girl dad, as a boy dad, you know, and see the differences, which you know is crazy difference, right? He now is coming up to 2 in a few months, and the difference between my daughter and him, oh my gosh, she was an angel. Everybody used to tell us that, we were like, well, we wouldn't know. So first, and then this guy, oh my gosh, he would have climbed everything in you. He would have pulled him down. You'd see that weight, because he knows what a weight is. He would have tried to pick it up, 25 pounds. But my wife's relationship with me, my kids, she's an incredible wife. And then the relationship that she has with my family back in Wales is one of the reasons why that, you know, this woman is everything and more to me. Because again, she's been there, she's seen the unseen. You know, it's hard to hide pain. It's hard to hide emotions when you're with somebody all the time. You can do it to the fans, you can do it on Instagram because that's a highlight reel, but when you're home and you're limping, you've torn your shoulder, you've got business stresses, you've got kid stresses, you've got all these other things, who is it that you really want to have as your biggest support network? And that's your wife, right? Or that significant other. And that's what my wife has been to me. So we've both complemented each other tremendously. In fact, when we got together, I never lost a single show at all around the world.
It's incredible.
Undefeated. So it's been quite the ride, and we joke and laugh, but the life that we were living in Florida was pretty good. I mean, what we created. But the life that we're now living in Las Vegas is a completely different animal, and we talked about it, the opportunities, and creating these opportunities, and now that we live these daily, and you know, we've got people that come in and out of that gym that we call friends, we go to dinner to, it's like, wow, that risky move from Florida to Vegas has paid off. And we have to remind ourselves about that too, because you can sometimes get caught up in the norm when that's not the norm. And it wasn't certainly the norm 3 years ago. The new norm is a new level, and now I'm up in the bar to create and chase much more levels too.
Got to give a shout out to my wife, Madison, as well.
Shout out
you know,
to your wife.
I've got 5 kids. They obviously come first, as they would in her life as well. We have 2 together, 3 from prior marriage, but she's been the most important person in my life since I met her.
Yeah.
Gives me strength and motivation every day. Supports all the things I do, no matter how crazy or how wild they are.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of wild ones, that's for sure.
Yeah, mine too.
And I think it's so great to have someone behind you who you
Yeah.
love, and who loves you, and who motivates you, and that's my wife.
Compliments you, right?
Compliments me. I'm high strung. She's not. I think that's a very important thing.
Yin to the yang.
Pardon me?
The yin to the yang.
The yin to the yang.
Yeah, that's how Ali is to me too.
Before we finish today, I want to go ahead and ask some more open-ended questions. I call this part of my podcast, Fill in the Blank to Excellence. Are you ready to play?
Let's go. Play the game.
The biggest lesson I've learned in my life is?
Embrace failure.
My number 1 professional goal is?
Legacy.
My number 1 personal goal is?
Be a great dad.
My biggest regret is?
Yikes. Not seeing my parents more.
My biggest fear is?
Losing it all.
The craziest thing that's happened in my career is?
friendship with Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I don't know. No. Craziest thing. Speaking into existence the things that have happened.
That's so profound, by the way. I love that.
That's probably it.
The one thing I've dreamed of doing for a long time but haven't is...
There's so much. I can give you a list. But one I would say is getting my pilot's license. To be able to take me and my family places that I'd be able to take them and not, conform to the airport, I guess. I don't know. That's a good question.
PJ, private jet?
Yeah, or a prop plane, I don't know. Let's start somewhere, right? Okay. We got to start somewhere. There's levels to this shit, okay? No, but that's a good question. That is a good question. There's a few things that I would love to say, and I probably regret now driving home, but I should have already done, okay, I'll tell you this then. Moved my parents to the United States, be more aggressive. My parents are so homebody, but they're such great hands-on grandparents that me and my wife now this last year have been super aggressive again and move you a lot more. So that's even me taking heed in that and going out to this room today being like, okay, babe, we need to get my parents here. Thank you.
If you could meet one person in the world, who would it be?
I would say right now that's in and around my life, I would love to do a Joe Rogan podcast.
That's the dream, right?
There's a lot of people.
Podcast dream.
Yes, there's a lot of people I'd love to meet, but then I would be meeting them just to shake their hands. But with Joe, I truly believe we can have a really good conversation, just like this, right? Maybe a little bit shorter, because
Right.
I've talked way too much.
The one question that you wish I had asked you but didn't is?
I always get asked this question about genetics. And what I want to tell people is, genetics are just the ability to get you somewhere, then work ethic takes you to that extra 1%. So having genetics, like anything, you're either born fast or you're not. You can be fast on that track, but if you put extra time in, the unseen, as I keep talking about, you will get faster. Whether it's 1 second, and that might take a year, 2 years, but you will get faster. And genetics play a massive part in bodybuilding, but then the work ethic is what separates you from the pack.
I think it's important that we leave the house excited. You want to feel good when you walk out the door. Mm-hmm. We both love something very similar, so I think we got to get them up on the table.
Get her up on the table.
We got to get our shoes up there.
Oh, I was like, what are we talking about here? He just segued from posing trunks to like getting something up on the table. I was like, oh, when is this podcast kicking?
We got to show off the shoes. I kind of think that we should have had part of the show with the shoes in the show.
I was thinking about it, but I didn't want to be disrespectful.
Oh, it's not disrespectful. I think it's great.
The shoe game we had the chance to talk off air prior to coming on, and we were talking about our love for shoes. And this has become a new love for me since moving to the United States, and so more so moving to Vegas. And growing up in the UK, we never could have nice shoes because of the weather, and financially we weren't in that position. So when I came to the US and I started hearing people talk about kicks and this and that, I didn't know the lingo. Now I do. So my collection has grown exponentially. And also, just to tell you more of a feather in the hat of my wife is the shoe plug. She's got more connections in the shoe game than me. So she's the one that gets me all my shoes. I go, babe, can you get me some Travis Scotts?
And you get them probably at retail, right?
She's got the plug.
So you're not going on StockX?
No. I haven't been for a long time.
Yeah. So thankfully, I had a connection here for these shoes that are listed on StockX for $12,000.
That's 12 right now?
$12K.
Do you know what I love about the shoe? You got the little pigeon on the back. Can you see
they got
that on
everything
camera?
on there. I mean, they got a number 7. I have no idea what that is.
Well, the pigeon is kind of part of my upbringing, because I went into the pigeon racing at one point in time too. So to see them and seeing that pigeon is like kind of cool. That's a bird that gets a bad reputation.
Yeah.
Now, you can relate it to human beings, right? You've got the racing pigeons who are athletes, and then you've got the ones that you see around the streets. That's kind of like the malnutritioned, homeless people. But the racing pigeons, they're athletes. They they're trained the same way, they do the races, they fed the same way. And obviously having that experience with them, you know, as a young kid and blitzing everybody in the pigeon club, I changed the feather kind to the two-legged kind in the terms of chasing birds. Because it wasn't cool to bring a girl back to my parents' house and say, like, I got pigeons in the bloody shed in the back, you know. So,
Shitting all over the place.
Shitting all over the place, yeah. But it's been again, it was a chapter of my life, and I'm glad to say, had I not lived these chapters, every one of them, small to big, has played a role in creating the DNA. You know, again, I can talk about and laugh about these situations and things that I was into. I was just an entrepreneur, trying to hustle, because there's money in pigeons too.
Yeah.
So, in fact, the world's most expensive pigeon, if you guys want to Google it, I think it's like 1.2 million. I've never been a sheep. I've never chased sheep. If everybody's into something, I cannot not be, because I feel it's going to, you know, how much?
1.3.
1.3, I stand corrected.
For a pigeon.
Racing
We're
pigeon.
not talking about a thoroughbred racehorse, we're talking about a pigeon.
We're talking about a thoroughbred pigeon that comes with a pedigree.
Right. What does that pigeon do that makes it worth $1.3 million?
It's going to sit in the shed for the rest of its life and procreate. It won't see another sky, unfortunately. Because
But how did it get to be worth $1.3 million? At some point, it's out flying everybody. I don't know what it's doing.
That, or they buy from the lineage, like
Okay.
racehorses. The DNA is in the blood.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And yeah, I mean, and there's different, and then you can dissect this even more, where you've got certain birds that are for short sprints and then long distance. It's very interesting and you know, world where you can just say pigeon this and you'll have a chuckle and a laugh, but then when you put your head into it and you realize the money is there, first of all, that's the biggest draw, right? And I was like, okay, let me find out. And then you start realizing, like, you train them. My birds were on creatine and glutamine and everything. They were on tonics, and yeah, they were all jacked up.
And a trainer.
They were me. I was training them. And also, just, yeah, so what I done is I linked in with a local transportation company, found the routes they were going. So these birds would always fly in the southwest direction. So anybody who was going towards the Midlands, England way, I threw this guy £5 or whatever else it was. He'd throw him on the back of his truck and let the guys out on the way to his destination. And what happens is these birds pick up landmarks. They do GPS in their head. It's just incredible. If you look into it, it's amazing. And they have an instinct. That's what they call home-in pigeons.
Okay.
And then you do these long distance races, which they take them all the way to the UAE and fly them from the UAE to the UK. Yeah. And most of them, fortunately, the majority of these birds, you know, they never make it back home. Hawks, sea, water takes them out. But yeah, going off the point. Again, prolonging your podcast, mate. This is the problem with Flex Lewis being your guest.
Flex, this has been one of the best shows I've ever done.
Oh.
You're an incredible person, by the
Thank
way.
you.
I mean, congratulations on all your success
Thank you, sir.
and all the things that you do. I mean, you're an inspiration to me, and I
Oh.
know millions of other people.
Same
So
for you to me. What
So-
you've achieved is incredible, mate. You know,
I appreciate that.
I just want a few numbers next to my name. You put a lot of numbers next to your name, but and congratulations and kudos to you of just you and the story, what you had to endure and put into your day-to-day step to sit in the seat right now and now be able to have that feather in your heart and now still be motivated and energized to go on to do these new endeavors such as the public speaking and interview some other incredible entrepreneurs, whilst being, in many cases, much more successful in them is a testament to you, because success is measured in many different factors, but I garner success from people who've achieved stuff by working hard. It doesn't matter what you have in your bank account. If you've gone to work in rainy days and you've been motivated to do so, then I like to be around that mentality. And suffice to say, you're now, to me, added to the list of people I look and get motivated to. And thank you for all the success you've had and motivated me too.
Well, I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
We're going to be a good buzz, I know. This has been awesome. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.